In today's episode of Today in World War II, the RAF Fighter Command changes its tactics in France against the Germans. The American fighter pilots, the Flying Tigers, saw their first combat against the Japanese. The German Army Group Mitte was given a death sentence by their commander-in-chief. The RAF makes one of their biggest raids of the war so far against Frankfurt. And the German offensive in the Ardennes continues to move forward, and the Americans lose an awful lot of gasoline on today's date. Let's get started. Okay, and on December 20th, 1940, Fighter Command for the RAF decided to change their tactics and let the fighters, British fighters, become more aggressive over France. This was the first raid of this kind, and they sent two Spitfires from number 66 Squadron from RAF base Biggin Hill from London to carry out a sweep over Brec and Le Touquet in France. Their target was not enemy fighters. They were specifically to go after land targets. In this case, they were going after power transformers and road traffic. This was the first time where they allowed RAF fighters to go after ground offensive targets. They called these things rhubarbs. And it was, I guess they wanted to be able to strike back. Usually, these rhubarb attacks were designed to if the cloud cover was such where it didn't make sense to do a fighter sweep, they could cross the channel in the cloud cover, come out of the cloud cover, shoot up their targets, and then get back in the cloud cover. In the meantime, they would not let the Germans rest. As a footnote, it was on this type of mission where I think the best pure fighter pilot the RAF had in the war, Robert Roland Francis Tuck, not Francis, I'm sorry, Robert Roland Stanford Tuck, who had 29 victories. He actually was shot down during one of these rhubarb raids, but I will talk about that in a later episode. So, but what I will not talk about anymore, well, I'll talk about it right now, let's say, is that you should subscribe to my channel. Click the subscribe button, hit the button that says notifications, and that way you're in the club and you get notified whenever I drop a new video. Okay? On December 20th, 1941, the very famous Flying Tigers, the first American volunteer group, AVG, Flying Tigers, they actually saw their first combat against the Japanese in China. For those of you who don't know anything about the Flying Tigers, they were recruited by the nationalist Chinese Chiang Kai-shek to come over and fight for China. They were volunteers, hence the name, the American Volunteer Group, but they were not serving as in the U.S. military. That's where they got their experience, but they were not currently in the U.S. military, so they had their expenses paid. They were paid very good salary at the time, got nice bonuses for every time they shot down a Japanese plane. And one of the most notable Flying Tigers was Greg Boyington, who would later leave the Flying Tigers, go back to the U.S. And he was a Marine before he joined the Flying Tigers. He got back into the Corps, and then of course he was known for leading his squadron of Corsairs in the Solomon Islands. His squadron was called the Black Sheep Squadron. He went on to later become one of the highest or most the fighter pilot with one of the largest scores in the war. Before he was shot down, he was given the Medal of Honor for that. So the Flying Tigers, were eventually swallowed up when America got into the war after Pearl Harbor, and then they fought with the United States Army Air Force. But for until that happened, they were still fighting for the Flying Tigers. So I would love for you, very briefly, I'll go this really quickly. like my video, please, and leave a comment because it's so important for the algorithm to let this to be shown to other people's feeds so that way my channel can grow organically. So thank you for your help in this. On December 20th, 1941, by now, the German offensive against Moscow was a shambles. It was getting thrown back by those crack reserve uh, units or divisions from Siberia that had been thrown into the fray right in front of Moscow. The German general staff allowed the generals on on the front to withdraw, let these units withdraw initially from this overwhelming Soviet attack. They had withdrawn to about maybe 70, 80 miles from their positions. They were almost swallowed up in that counteroffensive. But Hitler decided that's it, no more. So he countermanded the high command's order. He effectively made them a static, stationary target. No more mobility, no more moving. Don't set a yard back. Well, he was an idiot, and it actually helped the Allied cause. So, hey, you know what? When your enemy is committing mistakes, you don't stop him, right? Okay. And then on December 20th, 1943, the RAF made their heaviest air raid by far in the air war, the night air war against Germany. They sent about 650 aircraft, mostly Lancasters and Halifaxes, against Frankfurt, Germany, and they dropped about 2,000 tons worth of explosives. And then what they used to do, they used to double tap the Germans. So they would send a Pathfinder squadron, mostly made up of RAF Mosquito aircraft. They would drop bombs to illuminate where the main body of aircraft should drop their bombs. And then afterwards, the double tap is about an hour later, they would send over more mosquitoes and they would drop bombs in an effort to take out the German firefighting crews that were down there trying to put fires out. So not exactly Queensberry rules, playing like the old days of chivalry behavior. But this was war, and these were the Germans, and let's not forget all the millions of people they killed. So under the circumstances, I give them a pass. I'll allow it. Okay. And then finally, on December 20th, 1944, the Battle of the Bulge continues. This is the initial push of the main body of German troops, panzer units that went through the Ardennes and targeted the soft spot in our lines. We had put inexperienced troops there, troops that had needed rest and rehabilitation a little bit. They weren't ready. There was the intelligence did not was not able to find out that there was going to be a huge offensive there. So unfortunately, a lot of these troops got killed or taken prisoner. In this case, more prisoners were taken. About 6,000 soldiers of the 106th and 20th Infantry Divisions were surrounded and taken prisoner near Pume, Germany. But it's okay. We got them back. We got them back, and then also in the same context, the Germans were continuing to move forward, and the SS Panzer Army was able to capture one of their initial goals, which was to take a huge U.S. fuel supply dump, and that helped them to continue their offensive. Because if you remember the earlier episodes where I was talking about the Battle of the Bulge, at the start of it at least, Germans did not have any fuel reserves. They ever since they lost the Ploesti refineries to the Soviets in Romania, they were almost out of fuel, and so this taking this huge ammo dump helped them to continue. Now, for their plan to work, they had to continue to take those ammo dumps, and they only got the one, and that was it. So they were stopped around the line of the Meuse, and we'll get into that in later episodes. But right now, I just want to say thank you for watching. I can't wait to get you another video.